Hello everyone, I'm Leila Quiliano from BTLE HE2A and I am from Group 8. So I am the first reporter in my group, wherein our topic is all about the norms of morality. So the topic that I had is all about the meaning of norms, the norms of morality, and the introduction about basis of moral judgment. So I apologize about my voice because I have a sick now. My report is all about the meaning of norms. So, kapag naririnig ko kasi yung salitang norms, pumapasok sa isip ko is yung nakasanayan na dapat nating gawin. So, or could I say na tama nating gawin na magiging tama rin sa mata ng iba. So, the common meaning of norms is all about the rules or expectation that are socially enforced. So when we say socially enforced, it's all about the society created na dapat maging ganto ka rather than this, maging ganto ka para maging tama ka, and wag kang maging ganto dahil mali yun. Parang ganun kasi yung naiisip ko sa norms. So, a norms is a standard or a pattern, especially of social behavior that's typical or expected of a person. So, a norms is authoritative standard or a model. Dapat maging ganto ka rather than this. For example nito is yung norms is nag-encourage siya ng positive behavior. For example, ng positive behavior is you will be honest. Dapat maging honest ka. And yung norms is nag-discourage siya ng negative behavior wherein di dapat tayo mag-cheat for exam or to the person, ganyan. Ayun yung mga iba't ibang example ng norms. So, wherein yung norms is a moral qualities of a human acts that are measured with the use of norm or standard to support a judgment. So, yung pinaka-ano ng norms is a standard. Standard siya para maging tama or mali yung action mo. Yung norms kasi, ang pinaka-ano example na to, diba? Yung sa mga beauty contest, yung judges doon, meron siyang criteria for judging. Wherein hinahanap niya dito is yung dapat maganda ka, matalino ka, may stage presence ka, and yung costume, and etc. So, yung example ko ng judges na meron siyang criteria yung mga ganun, pumapasok yung sa norms. Kasi ayun yung parang magiging basehan kung mananalo ba yung isang contestant. Doon din sa society natin, merong basehan para makonsider na tama yung action mo and makonsider na tama ka as a person. So, gets po natin. So, the second one is all about the norms of morality, wherein the norms of morality is the criteria of judgment about the sorts of people we ought to be and the sorts of action we ought to perform. When we say ought, it's all about implies the duty and obligation, wherein meron po tong two criteria yung ating norms of morality. The first one is the quality of character, what sorts of person one ought to become. It's all about the quality of the character of a person or the characteristic of us as a person. And the next one naman po is the quality of an act, what sort of action to be done. It's all about the action na nagawa po natin or gagawin pa lang po natin. So, sinasabi po na itong dalawang criteria na to na quality of an character and quality of an act is interconnected. Bakit po? Kasi nagre-reflect po to sa isa't isa wherein kapag yung character mo po is ganito, so yung action mo po is magre-result sa ganito. Wherein kapag naman po yung action mo is nagawa mo ng ganito, magre-reflect din yun sa character mo. For example, you do a bad thing. An action, you do the bad thing. So, yung action po na ginawa mong masama is mag-reflect po sa character mo. Kasabihin po na yung character mo is masama, kaya mo nagawa tong action na to. Kapag naman po yung character mo sa ibang tao or yung characteristic na pagkakakilala nila sa'yo is bad na, so, may isip po ng ibang tao or ilalagay na po nila yung action mo as a bad din because of your character. That's why the character and act reflects itself po. So, the kind of person we were determine the kind of action we do. Diba? Kapag determine na po natin yung tao na mabuti, so, inisip po natin na kapag kumilos siya or nag-act siya is mabuti rin yung gawa niya. So, an evil-minded person will do what is wrong. Because po yung nasabi po natin na kapag maiisip niya is mali, so yung magagawa niya rin is mali. Wherein kapag naman po a well-intentioned person is kumilos as if siya po ay well-intentioned person, gagawin niya po is mabuti or hindi masama. In that sense, action reflects character. Kaya po sinasabi na yung character and action reflects itself. So, the norms of morality is a rational assessment of the worthiness or unworthiness of a person or an act on the basis of the given standard or criteria. Wherein yung standard or criteria po natin is yung norms natin tinatawag. Kung saan sinasabi po na yung norms of morality is a rational assessment, wherein kapag sinabi natin rational is a logical assessment po, wherein binabase po natin dito kung yung action ba or yung person ba is mabuti or hindi. Based po dun sa criteria to that specific events or happenings po doon po sa ating reality life, in reality. So, the last one po na about my topic, I introduce or uumpisahan ko lang po to because my other group mates or the second one to me is the one who elaborate this about the basis of moral judgment. So, the basis of moral judgment is on the norms of morality. So, kadugtong lang po siya ng ating norms of morality wherein meron po itong tatlong part. Yung the eternal law, natural law, and conscience. So, the first one po is the eternal law. Well, wherein sinasabi po na ito yung ultimate norm. And the second one naman po, the natural law, where ito naman sinasabi nating remote norm. And the third one is the conscience, wherein ito naman po yung sinasabi nating proximate norm. So, bakit nga ba siya tinawag na ultimate norm, remote norm, and proximate norm? Let's talk about it deeply on my next group. Thank you for listening and God bless you all. Thank you again. I'm Layla Caliana from BTLHE2A. God bless everyone.
So good morning everyone. I'm the second reporter of Group 8 about ethics. And the topic that assigned to me is the eternal law, the natural law, and the characteristic of natural law. So now let's proceed to our discussion. Norm of morality. Now, let me know what is the content of norm of morality. So, first slides, eternal law. Eternal law is the plan of God in creating all creatures, both animate and inanimate, giving to each of them its irrespective nature. The concept of eternal law is referred from the order and harmony in of the created universe. So, we use the term natural order to refers to the harmony present in the material universe. In the natural order, every creature acts and reacts according to the demands of its nature. So the second slide is natural law. Natural law refers to the operational tendencies of the human nature, the chemical, biological, physiological, psychological, and rational properties of a man as an organism. So natural law is the tendency of human nature towards growth and self-fulfillment. Accordingly, anything contributing to the actualization of man's potential is morally good, and anything that contradicts the self-creation of the person as a person is morally evil, while the morally goods act contributes to the integration of a person. The morally evil acts causes its disintegration. So last slides, characteristic of natural law. So we have the four concept of characteristic of natural law. So let we know why it is universal, it is obligatory, it is recognizable, and it is immutable and unchangeable. So, why it is universal? Because it is the human nature which is shared by all men, taught realized differently according to their respective culture. Then, second, why it is obligatory? Because the tendencies of our human nature are the laws of our desires and actuation which we cannot ignore without their consequences. Then, third characteristic, why it is recognizable. Because man, being self-reflexive, is aware of his nature, of what he is and what he is capable of and what is expected of him by his own kind. And now, the last characteristic of natural law, why it is immutable and unchangeable. Because although change is a rule of life, human nature it is essentiality and substantiality remains permanent and unchangeable. So, thank you for listening. And our next reporter is Leona Ramirez.
Good day, I'm Leona from Group 8 and my topic is all about conscience. What is conscience? The word conscience derived etymology from the Latin conscientia, meaning privity of knowledge. Conscience is a practical judgment of reasoning telling us what should be done because it is good or what should be avoided because it is evil. It is a judgment of reason because it derives from our understanding of what ought to be done as good and what ought to be avoided evil. We have two functions of conscience. First is before the commission of an act. It is conscience direct towards that which is good. And the second is after the commission of an act, which is conscience either approves or reproves. The types of conscience. First is correct conscience, erroneous conscience, doubtful conscience, scrupulous conscience, and the last is lax conscience. Correct conscience. Comes from enlightenment, from refined moral sensitivity, or from the habit of going good. It is the result of sound upbringing, education, good habits, and intelligent laws. Next is erroneous conscience. Comes from malice, ignorance, bad habits, and bad influence. It is a person has no awareness of the possibility of error. Must be followed just the same as a certain conscience which is right. Next is doubtful conscience. Is a vacillating conscience unsure of itself. It is uncertain concerning the morality of an action. Therefore, it suspends its judgment, but with reasonable fear of erring. One may never act in a practical doubt on the lawfulness of an action. How can we postpone? There is certainty. The next is scrupulous conscience. It is overly cautious, meticulous, and fearful of committing a mistake. It is meticulous and wants incontrovertible proofs before it acts. It is frequently the result of a stubborn character. And the last is lax conscience. It is indifferent and mindful of right or wrong. Tends to follow the easy and find excuses for omission and mistake. There are people who act on the impulse of bahala na of matters of moral. Compulsory conscience, our bond with the natural law, is an excelled participation in the eternal law of God manifest by our conscience, whose natural function it is to reveal our likeness to God. Compulsory conscience, when conscience operates in the realm of truth and sound reasons. It is compulsory to listen to it. It is only when conscience urges us to act according to our rational insights. It is it is uply the voice of God. But when conscience deviates from the norm and urges us to do what the reasonable, it is our own evil work.
So good day everyone, my name is Madeline Potot and today I will discuss my topic. So let's start. So first, what is conformity or non-conformity? It's a human act, is a type of a social influence involving a change in belief or behavior in order to fit with a group. So conformity helps us to do better by helping us make accurate, informed decision. So in conformity, help us to be accepted by those people who care about. So one example of conformity is when a person drinks and drives because friends do it. So in short, the conformity is the ability to make a moral or safe decision. So the next one is the formal norms. It relates to a person or a character, what kind of a person you are. So it is a VO2B. This consists of such a character development such as be honest, be direct, be respectful. So the best example of formal norms is discouraging, negative comments, do not cheat, and also ignore negative behavior. So, the formal norms are the most specific and clearly stated of a various type of norms, and they are the most stricted in force. So the next one is the material norms. It is the relate to action, what action ought to do. These material norms determine or whether an account of its nature conforms or does not comport with the formal norms. So, in material norms, it is a prohibit or require specifically describe behavior that an observer clearly could not had or had not occurred. So, the best example of these norms is the prohibiting murder, rape, and also torture. So next and the last is the moral relativism or ethical relativism. So it's a term used to describe several philosophical positions that concern with the difference in moral judgment. So moral relativism is the idea that there is no universal or absolute set of moral principle. It's a version of morality that advocate to each her own, and those who follow it says, who am I to judge? So the best example of this moral relativism is if a person believes that abortion is morally wrong. So that's all. Thank you.
Good day. I am Sophia Elaine Punsalan, and I will be the last discussant for this group. The first topic I will be discuss is physicalism versus personalism. First, what is physicalism? Physicalism suggests that the physical and biological nature of man determines morality. Morality is in accordance with the natural order in the universe. Anything opposed to man's physical, physiological, or biological tendencies is wrong and immoral. Physicalism stated that only the physical and biological attribute of someone is a definition of his morality. If it's not, it's contradicting to the morality of what is right or wrong. Next, personalism. Personalism suggests that reason is the standard for moral judgment. Right reason or rectaration is the dynamic tendency in the human person to know the truth, to grasp the whole reality as it is. Morality is in accordance with the order of reason or the dictate of reason. Personalism attaches major importance to personal factors which guarantees intimacy. The inability to disassociate personalities from functions and positions make it extremely difficult for them to be really objective is making judgments. Next, the order of reason. Every living thing acts in accordance with its nature. Man acts in a way proper to him through the use of reason. The human person does not have to conform to natural pattern as a matter of faith. Rather, nature provides the possibilities and potentialities which the human person can make human life truly human. The order of reason, it says here that human indeed being affected by so many different factors, especially the nature, where it totally influences the way people live or behave. Next, reading, moral pretension. Action flows from character like water flows from the spring. If the spring is contaminated, the water coming from it is also polluted. If man has an evil character, his actions are likewise evil. Moral pretension stated that human is defined by his actions or behavior. If his actions doesn't show any goodness or morality, then up until the end, it wouldn't be changed. However, if he's surrounded by good influencers, possibly his actions or behaviors would change for good. Next, compulsory conscience. When conscience operates in the realm of truth and sound reason, it is compulsory to listen to it. It is only when conscience urges to us to act according to our rational insights that is applied to voice of God. Compulsory conscience, it is necessary to heed to conscience when it acts in the area of truth and good reasoning. Only when our conscience compels us to act on our reasonable understanding does the voice of God come into play. Next is conformity and nonconformity. Conformity is the act of matching attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors to group norms, politics, or being like-minded. Norms are implicit, specific rules shared by a group of individuals that guided their interactions with others. Conformity occurs when people accept both the approved goals and approved means. The conformist wants to achieve such goals as success and generally use approved means even if they are unsuccessful. Non-conformity, sometimes referred to as a defect, is a deviation from a specification, a standard, or an expectation. Non-conformities can be classified in seriousness multiple ways. Through a typical classification scheme may have 3 to 4 levels, including critical, serious, major, and minor. Non-conformity may be defined as the violation of social norms or expectations. A nonconformity act may be nothing more than a case of bad manners. On it may threaten life itself. Next, formal and material norms. Formal norms relate to formation of character, what kind of person we ought to be. This consists of such directives towards character development such as be honest, be direct, be respectful, and etc. Formal norms, stated values influence a person's behavior, wherein it dictates humans what kind of person or character they would act without being affected by so various factors. Material norms. Material norms relate to actions, what actions we ought to do. Material norms determine are whether an act on account of its nature conforms or does not conforms with the formal norms. Material norms is contradictory of formal norms because they would act according on what the society is imposing them to do. Last, moral relativism. Moral relativism is possible because the human mind, being finite and limited, does not always grasp the moral significance of certain acts or events. Moral relativism, also known as ethical relativism, is a philosophical approach that looks at how moral judgments fluctuate amongst persons and cultures. Someone who has such beliefs is referred to as a relativist. And because the human intellect is finite and restricted, it is sometimes difficult to understand the moral importance of particular acts or occurrences. That's all po. Thank you po.